is emovier. Okay. Yeah. Here, the emotion, the English word, but the origin of this word is from Latin language. That is emovier. Emovier is the word from the Latin language. The literary meaning of this word emotion is stirred up state, disturbed state, stirred up state, some agitated, or you can say agitated state. So why we use this stirred up state or agitated state means whenever we have some emotional disturbance, emotions that may be the positive or negative emotions. So our normal status, normal situation will be somehow it is disturbed, like agitated. That is the reason. So in every emotion, the situation of our this environment, you can say our physiological status, or even our behavior also will be somehow it is deviated or disturbed. Okay, that is the reason the literary meaning of this emovier is agitated or stirred up state of things. Why this stirred up state? Why this type of agitated state? There are three important components of emotion. That is the reason this is the agitated state or stirred up state, disturbed state. The three important components of emotions is one is cognitive emotion, cognitive component. In emotion, the first component of emotions are cognition or cognitive component. Second is physiological component, physiological component. Third is the behavioral component. These emotions comprise of three important components. Cognitive component. Cognitive component, as we know, cognition is a thought process. Okay, so whenever you have emotion, so that cognition is the main role of our emotions. The main, one of the important component of emotion is the cognition. Why? How it is the main, plays a main component, plays a main role in the emotion. Our understandings, thoughts, the way you analyze, the way we analyze, the way we thought, the way we think, the way we understand. It gives some sort of emotional, it may be positive or negative. Okay, so that is the reason one important component of emotion is cognitive, or you can say our thought process affects or impacts on the emotion. Second is physiological. Physiological. So see, the emotions are accompanied by physiological arousal, like usually at an autonomic level, or you can say there are some bodily functioning status, functionings involves in the emotional status, like our, for example, if we have emotional disturbances, or you can say if we have fear, or disgust, or anxiety. So it leads some physiological experiences, or you can say physiological maybe functionings will be disturbed. So like increasing heartbeat will be increasing in the emotional status. Then low, maybe high blood pressure or breathing, sweating.
Sir, excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, little bit louder, sir. It's not audible.
1 minute. Yeah. Is it okay now?
Yes.
Now
okay.
it's okay, sir.
Now it's okay.
Yeah. So the second component of emotion is the physiological component, like our central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. So, and our response of our other area like skin, like heart rate, heartbeat, you can say. Then blood pressure, breathing, sweating. These are all the various symptoms of physiological component. Okay, that is the second one. Then third one is our behavioral component. As I mentioned, there are three important components of emotion. First one is cognitive or thought process. Second is physiological. Then third is the behavioral component. In our emotional arousal state, state of our mind, state of our other aspects. So automatically, this behavioral also will be somehow it is affected. That is like our moods, expressions, maybe the facial expressions, unlike our it is like smiling, or your the way you communicate, the way we behave when you have emotional disturbance state. So this is the other area or component in our emotional disturbed state. First one is cognition, second is the physiological component, third is the behavioral component. The behavioral will be somehow it is impact, effect on our emotions. Okay. The impact of emotion, maybe somehow it may be the positive or it may be negative emotion. The impact definitely will be there on the behavioral component. So the behavior component is the another role of our emotion. And what are the main nature and characteristics of?
Is it the non-verbal communication? This emotions is the main reason to communicate people without any kind of verbal communication, like expressing anger or some kind of, or is it because they are unable to?
The way you communicate to the people and your facial expression, maybe verbal, non-verbal, your voice modulation, the pitch of your tone, these all comes under the behavioral component when we are in the emotional state, emotional disturbed state. So the behavior also having some role in the emotional status. That is the third component of behavior. Then depending on these three components, the nature of the emotion, the characteristics. Okay. Now in emotions, generally what happens, as I mentioned, emotions are accompanied by activation or an arousal state of any organism. Okay, it is an arousal state. Normal behavior will be sometimes different when we are in the emotional disturbed state or emotional disturbed state. So our arousal state, or you can say activation, will be in a different way. That is one important characteristic of emotion. Then our gestures, like our movements, our expressions, facial expressions, and our other physiological, like heartbeat, respiration system, pulse rate, they're all effects on this emotion. The characteristic emotion is the second one is that. Third one is the lot of energy will be released in the emotional state. Lot of energy. So this is another important characteristic of our emotion. Then when you are emotional disturbed state, like if it is the anger or maybe any fear, so our memory, our consciousness, our perception, our learning, they're all will be affected. Okay, when you are in emotional state, if you have any emotional experiences, in case of any emotional experience, like if it is negative emotional experience, then the perception you may not be in a position to perceive properly if you are in disturbed state. And the consciousness, you can say, is in memory also. So these are all the learning aspects, like memory, learning, perception, your analyzing capacity, interpretation. So in the emotional experience state, these factors definitely experience will be disturbed. Emotions are universal. All living organisms at all stages, one way or other way, they have some emotions. Okay, then another thing is that, so the emotions have the quality of displacement. Other characteristics of emotion is that one important characteristic of emotion is having the one important quality of displacement. For example, when the person shows, and for example, a principal of the school shows angry on that teacher, the teacher displaces that type of emotion from his or her higher authority and the subordinates. Okay, so if the principal or the HM of the school, the teacher, in some cases, shows that emotion on the children. That is one type of displacement. This displacement, the word displacement also you can find in the defense mechanisms. Displacement is one defense mechanism. Now we are the same displacement we are applying in the characteristic of emotions. Okay, so now we will move to the basic. What are the basic emotions? What are the emotions? There are some positive emotions, there are some negative emotions, as I explained. So positive emotions like happiness, joyfulness, and negative emotions like sadness, fear, anger, disgust, that all comes under the negative emotions. Maybe the positive or negative emotions, these sort of characteristics of emotions. Then what are the functions of emotions? Functions of emotions means some biological functions. Biological functions. The emotions are primarily emergency functions for the mobilization of energy. So mobilization of energy is purely a biological factor, biological function. So the function, one of the functions of the emotions is the biological function. Then second one is the social function. The social functionings like including communication, facial expression, so and your voice modulation, how you mingle with the other members in the group, it also depending on your emotional status. So the functions of the emotion, first one is the biological function, second is the social function, third is the function of stimulating function. So your emotional status makes others, for example, if you're happy, automatically this happiness stimulating the others in the group. Okay, for example, the person who is happy state of mind makes others also happy. That means stimulating function. Okay. Another one is the creative and the artistic activities. So emotions play a crucial role in the creative. If you are happy, if you are free, if you are joyful, if you are in the anxious state, some sort of creativity, or you can say you can involve in the artistic activities. So emotions play a crucial role, important role in creative and artistic activities. This is the fourth function of emotion: biological function, social functions, then the stimulating function, then creative and artistic functioning. Then anticipate or predict the behavior. The emotional expression of a person gives us a clue about how he or she is feeling. Okay, so you can easily anticipate, you can easily predict the behavior of others by their emotions, by their verbal or non-verbal communication state. So communication is also another important function of emotions. So, so the positive function there has been emphasized in the role of the emotion in communication. You will be in a position to communicate in a systematic way if you are emotionally stable. Okay. So then for emergency, emotions always help us in preparing for emergency behaviors. For example, in some case, if you're anxious to do something, so the preparedness will be high. If you are prepared well for examinations, your emotion will be normal. Okay, so these are all the various functionings of emotions. Some cases of destructive, or you can say functions also will be there due to the emotional disturbed state. Then after the development of emotion, how the emotions are developed. As we know, there are some developmental stages like infant stage, babyhood stage, childhood stage, adolescent and adulthood, you can say middle age, old age. These are the various stages of development. In all the developmental stages, emotions also will be stage wise. I can say development of emotions will be stage wise. Okay. There can be quantitative and qualitative. Emotions can be qualitative and quantitative. Okay.
Sir, excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, ఒక చిన్న డౌట్ ఉందండి. అది ఏంటంటే అసలు ఎమోషన్ కి మూలం ఏంటి సార్? ఎమోషన్ జనరేట్ అవ్వడానికి కారణం ఏంటి? దట్ ఈస్ ద ఫస్ట్ క్వశ్చన్. అండ్ సెకండ్ క్వశ్చన్ ఏంటంటే మీరు ఒక ఎమోషన్ ని బట్టి వాళ్ళు ఎగ్జిబిట్ చేసే బిహేవియర్ ని బట్టి మనం ఇంటర్ప్రిట్ చేయొచ్చు అన్నారు. సో ఒకవేళ ద అదర్ పర్సన్ ఇప్పుడు సే ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఒక థీఫ్ అనేవాడు యాక్ట్ చేస్తున్నాడు అనుకోండి, అబద్ధం చెప్తున్నాడు, బట్ హీ ఈస్ పర్ఫెక్ట్లీ ఓకే విత్ హిస్ యాక్షన్స్ అండ్ ఎగ్జిబిటింగ్ ఎమోషన్స్. సో అలాంటి సమయంలో మనం ఎలా ఇంటర్ప్రిట్ చేయగలం అనేది నా క్వశ్చన్ అనమాట.
గుడ్ నేమ్ ప్లీజ్.
మై నేమ్ ఇస్ హరి.
స్టార్టింగ్ నేను కాంపోనెంట్ చెప్తున్నాను. అదే మీరు స్టార్టింగ్ క్లాస్ అటెండ్ అయ్యారు? స్టార్టింగ్ రైట్ ఫ్రమ్ బిగినింగ్ కాంపోనెంట్.
అవును సార్, అటెండ్ అయ్యాను సార్.
అంటే కాగ్నిషన్ అని చెప్తున్నాం కదా మనం.
కాగ్నిషన్ కి కూడా నా డౌట్ ఏంటంటే కాగ్నిషన్ కి కూడా అసలు ఎమోషన్ కి మూలం ఏంటి? లైక్ ఎక్కడ నుంచి జనరేట్ అవుతుంది ఎమోషన్ అనేది, అసలు ఎక్కడ నుంచి జనరేట్ అవుతుంది అనేది నా క్వశ్చన్ అన్నమాట.
మళ్ళీ చెప్తాను, జాగ్రత్త వినండి. ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్, యు ఆర్ నాట్ అండర్స్టాండింగ్ ఇన్ ఏ ప్రాపర్ టాపిక్ ఎనీవన్. మనకు ఏదైనా విషయం అర్థం కాదు అనుకోండి, దాన్ని పర్ఫెక్ట్ అర్థం చేసుకోలేకపోయాం. అర్థం చేసుకోలేకపోయినప్పుడు ఏమవుతుంది, దానికి ఒక రకమైనటువంటి యాంగ్జైటీ, ఆ విషయం తెలియదు కాబట్టి ఐఎమ్ నాట్ ఇన్ ఏ పొజిషన్ టు అండర్స్టాండ్ ప్రాపర్లీ రిలేటెడ్ టు ఏ పర్టికులర్ టాపిక్, మేబీ యూనిట్. ఏదైనా ఒక విషయం మీద మనకు పూర్తిగా అవగాహన లేనప్పుడు ఆటోమేటిక్గా నాకు ఒక కన్ఫ్యూజ్ స్టేట్ వస్తుందా? ఐఎమ్ నాట్ క్లియర్ అబౌట్ దట్ పర్టికులర్ టాపిక్. అటువంటిప్పుడు ఏమొస్తుంది, నాకు ఒక కన్ఫ్యూజ్ స్టేట్. అవునా? ఈ తెలుసుకోలేకపోతున్న యాంగ్జైటీ వస్తుంది కదా, ఇఫ్ యు ఆర్ థరో ఇన్ ఎ పర్టికులర్ టాపిక్, there is no question of any fear. What if that is the component? ఇక్కడ ఏమవుతుంది, నేను అర్థం చేసుకోలేకపోవటం వల్ల నాకు భయం ఏర్పడుతుంది, యాంగ్జైటీ కలుగుతుంది. మీకు ఇంకో ఎగ్జాంపుల్ చెప్తా. ఎగ్జామినేషన్లో సరిగ్గా మనం ప్రిపేర్ కాకుండా వెళ్ళున్నాం ఎగ్జామ్స్కి, అవునా? వై ఫియర్ ఆఫ్ ఎగ్జామినేషన్ సమ్ కేసెస్, ఎస్పెషల్లీ 10th క్లాస్ పిల్లలు కావచ్చు, ఇంటర్మీడియట్ పిల్లలు కావచ్చు, వాళ్ళు ఏం చేస్తారంటే కొంతమంది లాస్ట్ మూమెంట్ వరకు ప్రిపేర్ కాకుండా ఆ ఒక 2-3 డేస్లోనే ప్రిపేర్ అవడం జరుగుతుంది ఎగ్జామినేషన్స్కి. అంటే డే బై డే ఎప్పుడైతే ఆ క్లాస్లో ఎంటర్ అవుతారో, వాళ్ళు 10th క్లాస్ కావచ్చు, ఇంటర్ కావచ్చు, ఆ క్లాస్లో ఎంటర్ అయిన ద ఫస్ట్ బిగినింగ్ డే నుండి వాళ్ళు ఎప్పటికప్పుడు లెసన్ చదువుకుంటే పోతే వాళ్ళకి భయమే ఉండదు. ఏ రోజు ఆ లెసన్ అయిపోతుంది, వాళ్ళ యొక్క సమ్మేట్ అసెస్మెంట్ కావచ్చు, ఫార్మేట్ అసెస్మెంట్ కావచ్చు, చక్కగా అటెండ్ అవుతారు ఎగ్జామినేషన్స్కి. అలా వితౌట్ ఎనీ ఫియర్ దే లైట్ ఎగ్జామినేషన్. దట్ ఈస్ వన్ టైప్ ఆఫ్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్. సెకండ్, కొంతమంది ఎట్లా ఉంటారంటే, కొంతమంది దే వోంట్ బాదర్ అబౌట్ ద స్టడీస్. వాళ్ళు ఇయర్ అంతా కూడా వాళ్ళ 6 months, 8 months, 9 months అంతా కూడా పెద్దగా చదవకుండా వేరే యాక్టివిటీస్లో ఇన్వాల్వ్ అవుతూ స్టడీస్ మీద పెద్ద ఫోకస్ చేయరు. లాస్ట్ మూమెంట్, ఆ వీక్ అనుకుందామా, 2 days అనుకుందామా, 3 days అనుకుందాం, వాళ్ళు ఏం చేస్తారంటే అది పెద్దగా చదవకుండా అప్పుడప్పుడు చదువుకొని వెళ్తారు. అంటే ఏమవుతుంది, ఇక్కడ వాళ్ళకి ఎగ్జామ్స్ మీద ఆ టాపిక్ మీద క్లియర్ కట్ లేదు, వాళ్ళకి అవగాహన లేదు కదా. అవగాహన లేకపోవటం వలన అది నేను చదివినటువంటి ఆ కొద్ది భాగం వస్తుందో రాదు నాకు ఎగ్జామినేషన్లో వస్తుందో రాదు అనే దాంతో వాళ్ళ భయపడుతూ వెళ్తారు. సో ఇక్కడ భయపడటం అనేది దేని వల్ల జరిగింది? వాట్ ఈస్ ద రూట్ కాజ్ ఆఫ్ దిస్ ఫియర్? హలో, ఒకటైతే వాళ్ళకి ప్రిపేర్ కాకపోవటం జరిగింది, దానివల్ల వాళ్ళకి సబ్జెక్ట్ మీద అండర్స్టాండింగ్ లేదు కదా, క్లారిటీ లేదు కదా, ఏ క్వశ్చన్ ఇస్తారో ఏం రాయాలో. ఇక్కడ నేను అంటుంది ఏంటంటే కాగ్నిటివ్ కాంపోనెంట్ ఈస్ దిస్. ఇది ఒక రూట్ కాజ్. మనం నాట్ ఓన్లీ ఒక ఎగ్జాంపుల్గా మనం ఇస్తున్నాం, స్టడీ ఎగ్జాంపుల్గా, ఏ విషయమైనా కావచ్చు, అది అవగాహన, కాగ్నిషన్ అనే దానికి ఫస్ట్ కాంపోనెంట్ చెప్పడానికి కారణం అదే కదా. ద మోస్ట్ ఇంపార్టెంట్ థింగ్ ఇస్ ద కాగ్నిషన్. ఆ మూలం ఏముందంటే నేను ఒక విషయం మీద సరైన అవగాహన లేకపోవటం నాకు నాలో యాంగ్జైటీ వస్తుంది, దెన్ ఫియర్ వస్తుంది. దాంతో నేను ఎగ్జామినేషన్ సరిగ్గా రా. హలో, అర్థమవుతుందా
సార్? అర్థమవుతుంది, చెప్పండి సార్.
ఇంకేమన్నా ఫర్దర్ ఇంకో క్వశ్చన్ అడిగారు మీ మాట?
అది ఇంకో ఫర్దర్ గా నేను అడిగిన క్వశ్చన్ ఏంటంటే,
అది కదా మీ క్వశ్చన్.
సెకండ్ క్వశ్చన్ నేను అడిగింది ఏంటంటే సార్, ఇప్పుడు మనం బిహేవియర్ ని బట్టి మనము రికగ్నైజ్ చేయొచ్చు, మనం పర్సీవ్ చేయొచ్చు అని చెప్పారు మీరు. సో ఇప్పుడు సే ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఒక అతను దొంగతనం చేశాడు, బట్ హీఈస్ వెల్ ఆర్గనైజ్డ్ ఇన్ యాక్టింగ్ అనమాట. అండ్ ద అదర్ పార్ట్ ఏంటంటే తను ముఖం మీద ఎటువంటి బిహేవియర్ అనేది చూపెట్టడం లేదు. సో ఇన్ దిస్ కేస్ మనం తనని ఎలా మనం ఐడెంటిఫై చేయగలం?
అంటే ఇప్పుడు మనం చాలా మంది చెప్పుకోవాల్సి మనం ఇప్పుడే స్టార్ట్ చేసుకున్నాం, బట్ స్టిల్ మీరు కొంచెం ఎర్లీగా అడిగారు కాబట్టి పర్వాలేదు చెప్తాను. మీకు ఒక 3-4 సబ్ టాపిక్స్ కంప్లీట్ అయితే మీకు అర్థమైపోయేది ఈజీగా. బట్ స్టిల్ మీరు అడిగిన క్వశ్చన్ నేను ఇప్పుడే అయిపోతుంది. వెదర్ ఆయన కరెక్ట్గా చెప్తున్నాను లేదనేది తప్పకుండా మనకు అబ్జర్వేషన్ వస్తుంది. ఇక్కడ మనం చెప్పిన బిహేవియర్ నాట్ ఓన్లీ వన్, బిహేవియర్లో చాలా చెప్పుకున్నాం. మనం ఏం చెప్పాలి? కమ్యూనికేషన్, ఫేస్ ఎక్స్ప్రెషన్స్, నాన్ వెర్బల్ క్యూస్, అవునా, ద వే హీ ఈస్ టాకింగ్, ద వే హీ ఈస్ కమ్యూనికేటింగ్, డెఫినెట్లీ వన్ వే ఆర్ అదర్ వే వీటిలో ఎక్కడో తప్పకుండా మనం అబ్జర్వ్ చేయగలుగుతాం. ఇఫ్ యు ఆర్ వెరీ కీన్ అబ్జర్వేషన్ చేయగలిగితే తప్పకుండా వస్తుంది. గాట్ ఇట్?
ఓకే సార్, ఓకే.
స్టిల్ మీకు మళ్ళీ నేను మనకి ఇంకా పోయే కొంత 2-3 టాపిక్స్ తర్వాత సబ్ టాపిక్స్ తర్వాత మనకు వస్తుంది. బట్ స్టిల్ నేను మళ్ళీ మీకు క్లారిటీ ఇవ్వగలుగుతాను. బట్ మెయిన్ థింగ్ ఈస్ కాగ్నిషన్. ఏదైతే మూలం అన్నారు, కాగ్నిషన్ ఒక మెయిన్ ఇంపార్టెంట్ కాంపోనెంట్. ఓకే, నెక్స్ట్. సో డెవలప్మెంట్ ఆఫ్ ఎమోషన్స్ బట్టి మనం మాట్లాడుతున్నాం. డెవలప్మెంట్ ఆఫ్ ఎమోషన్స్ మనం ఏం మాట్లాడుతున్నాం అంటే we have some developmental stages like an infant stage అని, babyhood stage అని, childhood stages అని కదా. ఈ స్టేజెస్ నుండే మనకు కొంత డెవలప్మెంట్ అవుతా ఉంది, స్టేజ్ వైజ్ development. For example,
sir, sorry to interrupt you here. Could we please proceed in English, because there are so many people who do not understand the native language.
But most of my class is in English only. But one person that he asked me Telugu background. That is the reason
I understand, sir. But that person who asked in Telugu, so if you would have done it in English, so many of the doubts would be similar.
May I know your name, please?
Arpana, sir. Arpana.
See, if he is from the studies from the Telugu background, I need to give the answer in Telugu only. Even though I will explain, most of my class will be in English. Okay, be patient. It's only initial state. We have to do so many 8 classes we have.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Don't be hurried. Okay, every question I will address, no problem. Right? Yeah. Yes, developmental emotions development of emotions will be from beginning stage, infant stage. The initial state of emotions will be excitement. Excitement is the first emotion of any human. Excitement. That emotion starts from the young infants. Very initial state of emotions will be the excitement. According to the Jones and Sherman's, they found that young infants have the excitement irrespective of stimulus. Without any even stimulus also, they will have this type of emotion that is called excitement. And other emotions like fear, anger, and love. Okay, this is the next stage emotions in the development of our stage, human stage. Then other emotions are like that. Some child exhibits a general pattern of excitement without any reason, without any specific cause, without any specific reason. Some children exhibits a general pattern of excitement. General pattern of excitement means some reasons. If it is the specific reason is that is the emotion, you can understand the emotion because of the particular situation or reason. But general anxiety is that, general excitement is that without any proper reason, without any proper cause, that is known as the excitement in general cases, or you can say a generalized excitement. Okay. Then another emotions in the childhood stage is that some sort of pleasant and unpleasant emotions. Pleasant emotions like happiness, and some are the fear, like anger. So love is the pleasant emotion, whereas the fear and anger are the negative emotions, or you can say unpleasant emotions. Okay. Later on stages, Woodward in 19th proposed the list of emotions include love, surprise, fear, anger, disgust, surprise, fear, sadness, disgust, calm, bitterness, pride. So insecurity, these are all the other emotions the Woodward proposed in 1938. So these emotions, development of emotions, you can say it is stage by type from infant to adolescent, even adulthood stage. One stage is that is adolescent stage, which is known as the emotional disturbed state. One is that initially infant is the one state of emotional disturbances. Second is the adolescent stage also. This is also known as the emotional disturbed state. So elevated emotions you can find in the adolescent state. Then types of emotion, as I mentioned, there are some positive emotions, negative emotions, and initial state, primary emotions, and the secondary emotions. Primary emotion, for example, if you have anger, it leads some sort of excitement, or you can say disgust. So primary emotion leads to some type of secondary emotions. If you experience fear, is the first primary emotion. Secondary emotion would be feeling of threatened. Okay, depending on the anger, the next emotion, or you can say secondary emotion, is the threatened. Okay, so this is the first emotion, then the second emotion. Emotions are limited if you observe, but in some cases, in some scientists like Abraham Hicks, he explained
ये बंद कर लो, वीडियो बंद कर दो, मेरा बंद कर,
emotional
अपन मैनुअली करना पड़ता है, दूसरे में ऑटोमेटिक आ जाता। हाँ, इसमें नहीं आ रहा, आईफोन पे ये सॉक्स पे नहीं आ रहा। हाँ, वो पिन नहीं आता, करेक्ट। फिर गया नहीं, आपका ध्यान ना भैया, देखो आप इधर ही, ये आप ही है, आपका कैमरा बंद कर दिया आपने। बंद कर दिया मगर साउंड नहीं आ रहा। फिर नहीं आ रहा।
Please can you mute yourself and do your services please.
यहाँ पे है जो भी है, म्यूट अनम्यूट माइक, ये माइक है, साउंड का इधर ही था। और मैं बात करना बोलती है इधर ही था। हाँ, नहीं नहीं, बस ऐसी बात करना, अगर बात नहीं करना उतर। नहीं, मैं बात करना बोलते तो ये
सर वीवो बोल के एक आवाज आ रहा, आप अनम्यूट कर दो ना सर।
बात होना बोले तो बस ऐसी,
मैं उसको बात प्रेस करो प्लीज।
सुनना बोले तो ऐसी लो, और कुछ भी नहीं। मैं बात करूँ तो वैसी बात करना, इसमें माइक है, इसको है ये।
सर माइक को क्लोज करो सर, ऑफ करो।
अगर इसको माइक नहीं दिया बोले तो अच्छा, अभी म्यूट पे है ये वीडियो का, नहीं वीडियो डाउन है, म्यूट पे नहीं है। अभी उनको सुनाया ना, बोलो यार, देख लो।
Sir, can we mute him, sir? Can you mute him, sir? The one who is disturbing.
I think host can do it.
Host, okay. Who is that person also, we don't know, sir, to address his claims so that we can listen to it.
So I guess either host or co-host can mute them.
As host can do it.
Yeah, host can do it. If co-host is available, please, you guys can mute them.
Okay.
చూపించినా కూడా మళ్ళీ అట్లా పిల్లలకి కదా, పిల్లలు అన్ని ఇప్పుడు బ్లండర్
Sir, you were telling about Abraham Hicks. I think you can start now, sir.
Yeah. See, there is any technical issues, the person of technical expert, he will restart. He will resolve. Okay. Just wait for some minutes or some time. So the technical person will be there from the university. He will see this. He will address those issues. Okay. Then
The top is done.
Sir, what is the emotional
Last
phase
లో
we are
మొత్తం
going
ఆ రైలింగ్స్ అన్ని అయిన తర్వాత బెడ్ షీట్స్ వేసి అప్పుడు నెక్స్ట్
Sir, can you request all the participants to mute?
సార్ మీరు అందరికి అన్మ్యూట్ చేసి మీరు ఒక్కటే మ్యూట్ లో పెట్టుకోండి సార్. మీకే ఆప్షన్ ఉంది, అది పోస్ట్ మీరే ఉన్నారు కదా.
నేనేమంటున్నానంటే is all will be sorted out from the technical support. You need not bother about those things. Just wait for some time. మీరు స్టార్టింగ్ లో ఎట్లా డిస్టర్బ్ అయిపోతే ఎట్లా ఫస్ట్ క్లాస్ కి మీకు ఫస్ట్ కాదు కదా.
Sir, what is the kind of emotional phase we are going through?
మాకు కొత్త కాదు కదా.
నో ప్రాబ్లం. చైనీకి చెప్పనా?
Unnecessarily you are means disturb అవుతున్నారు మీరు.
So this is also a kind of emotional statement.
Next one, see,
I thought again third year పిల్లలు వస్తారు కదా, ఎందుకు మళ్ళీ మధ్యలో డిస్టర్బెన్స్ ఎందుకు అని.
So positive emotions like happiness, love, appreciation, hope, and fear.
Cold sponges stroking, madam. We will stroke from face in tarvata, back of the ear. You will stroke till the hand. Then you will go to the shoulder, back of the shoulder. Ila neck nunchi vachi lower arm. Inner part first. Ade inner part first. Outer part of the leg. Then behind the shoulders, outer part, inner part of the leg. అంతే కదా. మళ్ళీ అదేనా కాదా ఒకసారి కన్ఫర్మ్ చేసుకొని చెప్తాం అంటే.
So negative emotions are like depression, anger, fear, guilt, jealous, frustration, denial. These are the negative emotions. Okay. See, some emotions like negative or positive, whatever the negative or positive emotions, if the emotional status is beyond our control, if it is, it leads some sort of emotional disturbance state, you can say, or you can say emotional unstable state. So whether it is emotional disturbance or emotional unstable, so it will give some sort of behavioral and you can say other the physiological characters will be influenced. So there are some feelings like block emotions that easily find out the emotional status through the emotional intellectual scales, or you can say EIS, emotional intelligence or emotional quotient. Okay, this emotional quotient is developed by old man.
ప్రతి స్టెప్ చెప్పానా మళ్ళీ అదే First you have to remove the dirty things.
Unmute అవుతూ ఉన్నారు automatically.
Oppo ID, please mute. You are disturbing everybody.
ఒక్కొక్కటి ట్రాన్స్ఫర్ చేయాలి. ఎవ్రీ టైం అన్ని చేస్తున్నారు. ఒక్కొక్క బేసిక్ ఫ్రమ్ టాప్ టు బాటమ్.
జస్ట్ బియాండ్ లైన్ కొంచెం వెయిట్ చేయండి, నేను టెక్నికల్ సపోర్ట్కి ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్. శ్రీనివాస్, ఇక్కడ బాగా డిస్టర్బెన్స్ వస్తుంది, చాలా మంది మీట్ చేయలేదు మిగిలిన. అయితే ఇక్కడ అది అంటే క్లాస్ డిస్టర్బెన్స్ వస్తుంది కదా, అందుకోసం మీరు అందరు మీట్ చేసేయండి, మీట్ చేయండి. నాది ఓకే, నో ప్రాబ్లం, వాళ్ళకి మీట్ చేసి అందరూ మీట్ చేయండి. ఓకే. Yes, see, emotions, why these emotions, or you can say emotional quotient or emotional intelligence is so important. Generally, any sort of psychological profession dealing with emotions is the crucial part, not only in the this psychological profession, even any other jobs, especially in the hierarchy. For example, if it is a managerial position, HRs. So here, emotional quotient, emotional intelligence is a major, plays a major role. For example, if HRs, like a managing position, manager position, so if our emotions are not in a controlled position, they are not a position to control their emotions, the overall team, for example, maybe he is, maybe or she may be the team leader, he may be in a, or she may be in a managerial status or managerial position or key role in the organization. If his or her emotions are not stable, so what happens? Ultimately, the whole team, okay, it affects a lot. The negative impact of that particular persons, those are in the managerial position or a key role in the organization. If their emotions are not in control, if they are not in a position to control their emotions, what happens? So this leads some unwanted situations in the organization, the team also. Okay, so emotional intelligence, emotional quotient, emotional intelligence is one important factor in controlling our emotions. Some individuals in any organization may have very good IQ levels, intellectual quotient, they may be genius. Their IQ may be around 120, 130. It is above, it is normal. It is highly intellectual people. If they are not control their emotions, nowadays so many situations are we are observing in our TVs and other social media. Though they are well educated, due to their emotional disturbed state, their these functionings are not in the proper way. So here Daniel Goleman, 1995, proposed that emotional intelligence, or you can say emotional quotient. So in emotional quotient, in emotional intelligence is an important consideration in human resources planning, job profiling, recruitment, interviewing, and selection, management, development, customer relations. So these are all the various areas which influence on the emotional intelligence, or you can say emotional quotient. If your IQ, intellectual quotient is good, though our intellectual quotient is good, if our emotional quotient is not up to the mark, it affects a lot on our functionings, not only in the functionings of our individuals, but the overall organizational setups, organizational status impacts a lot due to their emotional intelligence. So as I mentioned, this emotional intelligence influence on the, nowadays, you know that in any these selections, okay, some psychologists will be there. So they'll observe their emotions, the candidate's emotion, the individual's emotion, whether he is or she is suitable to the job or not. So here, for planning, job profiling, for recruitment, interviewing, and selection, recruitment, interviewing, and selection process also, they will observe in the selection process also, they will observe in the selection committee, selection members. So the screening committee, they'll observe the emotional status of the individuals. Means whether their IQ is good, it's okay. If their IQ also proper or not. So emotional intelligence also now it is a major role in all recruiting process. Okay, then how to maintain the emotional quotient, or you can say emotional intelligence. There are some domains of emotional intelligence. One is that according to the Goleman's theory of emotional intellectual, you can say emotional quotient. One is knowing your emotions. That is a major important factor of our domain of our emotional intelligence. We need to find out whether our emotions are disturbed emotions. We need to know, we need to have thorough understanding of our emotions. Okay, first one is that knowing our emotions, knowing your emotions. Okay, so in which environment you feel disturbed? Environment. So influence on you. So you need to know your emotions perfectly, properly. If you understand your emotion, if you know your emotion, you will be acting on depending on your emotions, based on your emotional disturbance state, our functionings. So here, knowing our emotions is the first domain of emotional intelligence. To maintain the emotional quotient, if you want to have very good emotions, first of all, we need to know our emotions. We need to balancing our emotions. If you have a specific emotional disturbance state in that particular environment, you have to be very far away from the situation. Okay, so even anger management also, that knowing your emotions. For example, you have anger in a particular situation, better to be cautious in that situation. You feel some sort of disgust, you feel some sort of anxious in so and so environments, better to maintain your emotions of anger and anxiety in the particular environment. That is knowing your emotions. Accordingly, you have to act according to your emotions. That is number one domain of emotional intelligence. Number two is that managing your own emotions. You have to manage, as I mentioned, anger management techniques. There are some techniques of anger management. So if you know you have anger in a so situation or environment, better to manage your emotion, manage your anger emotion in so and so situations. That is, first one is knowing your emotions. Second is the managing your emotions. Third is the motivating yourself. So as I mentioned in the previous class, also in our offline classes, motivations are two types. One is external motivation, second is the internal motivation. Okay, so you need to motivate yourself. When you have the specific anger, you need to motivate yourself. I need not to show my anger in so on so environment because my anger is not manageable. So better to be cautious when you are in that particular environment. That is your internal. You motivate yourself when you have anger and so on. So environmental situations. Then recognizing and understanding other people's emotions. So especially in the counseling part in psychological professionals, so better to manage your emotions and also better to know the emotions of others. Accordingly, we need to act. First of all, knowing your emotions. Second is managing your emotions. Third is the motivating yourself to manage your emotions. That is the third level of emotions. Fourth one is recognizing and understanding other people's emotions. That is nothing but empathy. That is also known as empathical understanding. Understanding the others or understanding the others' emotions. Okay, recognizing and understanding other people's others' emotions also one important domain of emotion. If you want to maintain the emotional intelligence, the fourth domain is that recognizing and understanding other people's emotions. Fifth one is managing relationship, that is managing the emotions of others. Managing relationships, managing the relationships, and managing the emotions. We know if you understand the emotion of others, accordingly you can manage with other people's emotions. These are the 5 emotional quotient domains of emotional intelligence. If you have these 5 domains, if you have perfect domains of these 5, like knowing your emotions, managing your own emotions, motivating yourself, recognizing, understanding of others' emotions, and if we are in a position to manage the emotions of others, so we'll have a good emotional quotient, or you can say emotional intelligence. So one what is wheel of emotions are given here. In this wheel of emotions, primary emotions, secondary emotions, are the emotion between the both emotions. Like for example, acceptance and it is hello, yeah. For example, seeing a car race towards us causes us to perceive a threat, that is thought. Triggers fear. So here, trigger, then thought, then emotion. See, so unpleasant feelings such as talking, a quick short breath, and a pounding heart follow. We respond by, see if one is fearful situation, how this fearful situation arises, given one wheel of emotions. Okay, so in this wheel of emotions, combination of emotions is given here. So human emotions are not that much of simple. These are all complex situations arises in the emotions, or you can say emotional state. So here, what are the emotions? As I mentioned, it may be positive emotions or the negative emotions. So we need to have emotional stability. When we are emotional stability, or you can say emotional balancing status, so automatically your emotional quotient will be always high. If you want to manage your emotional quotient, if you want to maintain your emotional quotient, as I mentioned, though we have intellectual quotient, perfect intellectual quotient, if we don't have perfect emotional quotient, it influences on our daily routine work. So better to maintain our emotions properly so that we will have emotional stability. Then next one is that there are some theories of emotion. Theories of emotions. Theories of emotions are that one is Lane theory of emotion, then Cannon-Bard theory of emotion, then theory of emotions with cognitive labeling. Then one is Lazarus cognitive appraisal theory. Then common sense theory of emotion, then facial feedback theory of emotion. So just we will discuss 1, 2 theories today. Rest of the theories later on we will discuss. So first one is common sense idea about emotion. So here environmental influence like psychological experience, physiological changes. Then environmental influence, or you can say some event in the environment leads some psychological experience. Then the psychological experiences leads to some sort of physiological state, or you can say physiological changes. Okay, the stimulus leads to an emotion, which then leads to bodily arousal and later the behavioral. See, for example, event is some stimulus, you can say some environmental event. An event in environment is the first stage, or you can first state. It leads some psychological experience. For example, some sort of, if you see some sort of event, it is unpleasant event by seeing some dog, snarling dog. What happens? The first stimulus is that then snarling dog. So first response is fear. So this unevent, that is unpleasant event, leads the psychological experience, that is fear. So this second state, or second stage of psychological experience leads physiological state of change, like arousal. Second response is that physiological response. So I am shaking because I am afraid. So shaking is the first response. Afraid is the second response. This is the one simple theory of environmental influence. Second is facial feedback theory. In our initial this time of talking class, this doubt expressed our students. So facial feedback theory, according to the facial feedback theory, emotion is the experience of changes in our facial muscles. One way or other way, definitely we will observe the behavior of the person those are having some emotional disturbed state. So here, according to the facial feedback, the emotion is the experience of change in our facial muscles. Okay. In other words, when we smile, we then experience pleasant nature, or you can say pleasure or happiness. So when we fear, we then experience sadness. So this is the change of our facial expression. One way or other way, definitely through the voice modulation, through the facial expressions, some sort of communication. So definitely we'll observe their emotional status. So here, for example, if you're walking down a dark alley late night, you hear footsteps behind you and your eyes widen, and your teeth clench and your brain interprets this facial change as the expression of fear. So if you are in any darkful situations, dangerous situations, there may be some changes of your behavior, or you can see your, maybe you hear footsteps behind you and your eyes widen, your teeth clench and your brain interprets. So if these changes happen in your physiological, or you can say facial changes, one event, due to that event, based on that event, there are some changes in your body, or you can say facial changes. What happened? Okay, so my some sort of sounds you are hearing, your teeth clench and your brain. So based on these particular changes, what happens? So you find some sort of danger situation. It means it leads some sort of emotion, I can say fear. So event in second facial feedback theory, it's also a simple theory. First one is the common sense theory. Second is the common sense theory of emotion, first one. Second is the facial feedback theory. In this facial feedback theory, first is the event. Based on the event, facial changes. Okay, changes in your body. Then emotions. So this is also three stages. It is emotion. The emotion arises due to the first two stages. Previous one, One is the stimulus, second is the first response of fear, third is the second response, third is the afraid, or you can say arousal. Whereas in the facial feedback theory, first is the event, same way here also event. Second stage is the facial changes, third is the emotion. Then another theory of James Land's theory of emotion is that this theory, so first one is event, second is arousal. Then whatever the arousal situations in your surroundings, based on the event, arousal state. Second is the arousal state. In arousal state, so what happens? You will interpret this arousal state. Okay. For example, if you are walking down dark LA late night, you hear footsteps behind you and you begin to tremble. So your heart beats faster and your breathing deepens. So these are all the various changes, or you can say arousal status. Now you interpret these arousal situations. You notice these physiological changes and you interpret that some sort of danger. So it leads fearful situation. So this is the 4 stages of emotion. 4th stage is emotion. So James Land theory of emotion gives 4 stages. One is event, arousal. Then you will interpret the arousal status, various changes in your physiological. Then interpretation of the 3rd one. Then 4th one is the emotion. First is the event, second is the arousal, third is the interpretation, 4th is the emotion. So this theory says that the physiological response determines our emotional arousal. So because of their physiological changes, you will interpret various physiological changes. Then you'll conclude, hey, I have some problem. It is the fear. Got it? So, but here, there may be in any theory, there may be some criticism. One criticism is that, so theory is emotional experience. So fear automatically will comes when you have this type of arousal status in your physiological part. So physiological changes automatically gives some sort of fear. That is only the one criticism of this theory. Here, stage-wise may not be there. Here, he mentioned that James Land theory of emotions mentioned that there are stages of 4. But whereas the criticism is that it won't happen in the stage-wise. Whenever this type of physiological arousal, automatically emotions will be aroused. No stage of any interpretation. That is the criticism of this particular. Then the 4th one is Cannon-Bird theory. In Cannon-Bird theory, physiological arousal may occur without the experience of any emotion. For example, so this type of what Cannon's theory says, this type of bodily changes, or you can say is maybe heartbeat, maybe trembling and sweating. These physiological changes may happen in some cases of positive things also. For example, if we do any exercise also increases heart rate. If you practice walking daily, morning time or evening time, this type of bodily changes, like physiological changes of sweating, increased heartbeat, even without even emotion, no need of any emotional, significant emotion in this situation. That is the argument by Cannon-Bird. These are the 2 scientists. Simultaneously, they found this theory that is the known as, that is the reason we call it as a Cannon. Okay. Simultaneously, event may be arousal through the event, based on the event. Simultaneously, arousal and emotion both can be possible. Got it? So here in Cannon-Bird theory, emotion involvement or involving event may be based on the event. Number 1, this emotion and arousal at a time, there is a chance of happening this arousal emotion at a time. Whereas in the another theory, like James Lang theory, this is stage-wise, this type of emotion, arousal, interpretation, the stage-wise. But in Kanbar theory, they explain that it is not in a stage-wise, simultaneously, automatically. If the event happened in our environment, automatically arousal and emotion automatically these both are happened at a time. There will be no any stage wise. Okay. Then next theory is cognitive leveling theory or two-factor theory of emotion. Two-factor theory of emotions again. Two-factor theory of emotions again is that event, arousal, reasoning and emotion. Whereas event, arousal, interpretation in the other theory, but whereas in this theory of cognitive leveling theory, or you can say two-factor theory, only these two factors, one is arousal and reasoning, leads to emotions. So one theory, legend theory, that is event, arousal, interpretation and emotion. Whereas in this theory of cognitive leveling theory, or you can say two-factor theory, there are two important factors of emotion. When event is happening in our environment, one is arousal, physiological arousal, and reasoning. Based on this both, based on this arousal and reasoning, emotion will. Okay, so example is given here, stimulus, or you can say any event. Okay, you can say the stimulus, incoming car, perception of stimulus, pounding heart beat. Then, so here this is the theory that is arousal. Then pounding, or you can say heart beat, or you can say second is the I am afraid. Simultaneously, depending on your arousal in your heartbeat, or you can say increasing of heartbeat, what you will reasoning here, your cause, or you can say you will conclude here is that I am afraid. Okay, so these are the two-factor theory. One is event is happened, or you can say stimulus, depending on the stimulus, or you can say event. One is heartbeat. Second is the, you will find out, oh, this is the reason. The reasoning is that I am afraid, that is the reason, heartbeat is right. Increased heartbeat, the reason of the increased heartbeat is the event. Okay, so and these are the various theories. One is thought. See, some theories, they explain that the event, arousal, interpretation. And another theory is that event, arousal, not what is interpretation. Instead of interpretation, reasoning is the second one. Third one is that event, thought, no, not reasoning, thought, then emotion, arousal. This is cognitive appraisal theory of emotion. When event, observe the event, thought, hey, this is the reason, then emotion and arousal. Then cognitive appraisal theory of emotion is that you are walking down a dark alley late at night, your heart footsteps behind you, and you think it may be some sort of dangerous situation, or you can say tempting situation. That is your thinking process. One theory is that your interpretation process. Second theory is that your reasoning. Third is that your thinking leads emotion and arousal state. So any theory, some theories are focusing on the arousal and interpretation. One theory is focusing on the arousal and reasoning. Another theory is focusing on the arousal and thought process. One theory is explaining that simultaneously both will happen. Okay, then yeah, now these are the various theories, or you can say theories of emotions. Now, role of physiology in emotions. What are the role of physiology in emotion state? Okay. Then emotional processing and the brain. So here, as we know, there are some emotional disturbances or emotional imbalance in state, instability. So here, emotional processing and the brain, how the brain influence in the emotional processing. Modern effective neurosciences focus on the 4 brain regions in the regulation of normal emotion: the prefrontal cortex, the anterior regulating cortex, that is the hippocampus, the amygdala. These are the 4 regions of brain influence on the emotion. Then the prefrontal cortex, part of frontal, then the orbital area, most of the medial frontal areas, the anterior part of areas. These are the other areas of brain which influence our emotions. Okay, how this each region of brain influence on our emotions is clearly mentioned in our this material. Okay, so with this, with this we will conclude this lesson because already time is up.
Sir, I have a doubt. Can I ask?
Yeah.
Sir, not one doubt. So, a couple of doubts, sir. Can you give one example for disruptive functions and blocked emotions, sir?
Yeah, in some situations, see, if it is apathy means no any thoughts. Okay, so in that case, blocked emotions. So how to react through your emotion, that is also blocked of emotions. Then second doubt is that, what is your second doubt?
Disruptive functions example.
Disruptive functioning. For example, if your emotional disturbance state, automatically disruptive state. Disruptive state means, for example, if emotions are extreme, or you can say elevated emotions, you can say extreme state of emotions, very often disturb our cognitive functionings and thinking process, also automatically disturb. You may not be in a position to think logically. Okay, so in that case, destructive, or you can say disruptive behavior or destructive functionings we will show. Okay, for example, undesirable consequences both to others and to content, which leads to, for example, if emotions are extreme, elevated emotions, what happens? We may not be in a position to think, we may not be in a position to understand the situation. We may not be in a position to act accordingly, according to the situation. So your functionings, your understandings, your thought process, totally it is disturbed because of the elevated or uncontrolled or extreme emotions. The total thought process will be disturbed, which leads to some undesirable consequences, both to the person or to environment, or you can say others in the environment. That is the destructive functionings. Got it?
Sir, one more doubt. Sir, maybe in the next class, can you show us this physiology in emotions, maybe in pictorial, in a picture kind of thing, so that we can understand in detail?
Picture kind of thing, see, being I already mentioned in our offline class also. So we have very limited time. Only remaining 7 classes we have of online classes. So within the 7 classes, I am supposed to complete another, I think, 12 or 13 units. Okay. Is it
okay, sir? Okay, I understood, sir. Or else you can refer some reading so that we can read it in offline, maybe after the class.
That we can do. So even now also you can expand some introduction of psychology, or you can say introduction of psychology, innotation of psychology, That is, a book is available. Second is General Psychology by S.K. Mangal. Okay, books are available. Okay, now I have next class, second year's class. We conclude here.
Sir, are these recordings available, sir?
Yeah, any books are available. Any books, 40 and other.
No, this class recording will be available later on, sir.
Pardon?
Recording of this class will be available.
Yeah, so these are all the these are the administrative things. So better to ask the administrators. Okay. I think these are available.
It is available in YouTube, sir.
That's right.
సార్ మనకు సిలబస్ మీరు చెప్తారు కదా సార్, దానికి మాకు నోట్స్ ఇస్తారా సార్, లేకుంటే మేమే ఓన్ గా ప్రిపేర్ కావాలా నోట్స్?
You need to prepare on your own. Notes.
ఓకే సార్, ఓకే, థ్యాంక్ యూ.
Madam,